I still remember waiting in line at midnight at GameStop for my PC copy of Borderlands 2. I got home, opened the box, and inside was just a Steam code. I could have been at home hours ago, preloading the game digitally. This was the moment I realized gaming was changing forever, and I never went to a midnight release for a video game again. That shift from physical to digital didn't just change how we buy games, it changed how companies sell them. And nowhere is that clearer than with Xbox Gamepass. On consoles, the shift to digital took a little longer, but once Xbox and PlayStation introduced models without the disc drives, the momentum towards a digital-only future was unstoppable. Microsoft during this time was also building an empire, buying up studios like ZeniMax Media, which includes Bethesda, Arcane, and id Software. And later, Activision Blizzard King, which gave them the likes of Call of Duty, Overwatch, Diablo, and, believe it or not, Candy Crush. I believe that's still the largest acquisition in gaming history. Add in a growing lineup of smaller indie studios that they gobbled up along the way too, and they had assembled a massive publishing house for one reason: supercharging Game Pass. To the average player, it felt like your dollar went further than ever. All those familiar favorites like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Call of Duty, as well as dozens of other day one releases, were bundled into a single subscription service that seemed like a steal. Even at $240 a year, the most expensive tier option just over a year ago, compare that to paying $70 per game, and the math actually checked out. And for PC players, the lower price made it even more appealing, enticing many, including myself by the way, to actually pay for the subscription. But since 2019, Game Pass prices have climbed roughly 75%. Right now, the most expensive tier is $30 per month, and for PC-specific Game Pass is about $17 per month. When Microsoft announced this increase, the cancellation page actually crashed, proving a lot of people decided to show their frustration with their wallets. But the financial side is only half the story. Behind the scenes, the consolidation that fueled Game Pass also came with a cost: tens of thousands of layoffs, and the closure of studios that even had successful games. The studio behind Hi-Fi Rush being a prime example, although thankfully they were scooped up by another company. It turns out that the Netflix of games model doesn't guarantee sustainability for players or developers. And that's where the question comes in. Do you really want to rent your games, or do you actually want to own them? And do you value them as an art form worthy of your hard-earned cash? This problem includes both console and PC players. Ownership isn't clear-cut on either platform. Steam, the biggest storefront in PC gaming, doesn't sell you games. It sells you a license to access them. And while technically some games are sold DRM-free on the platform, most are wrapped in a form of digital rights management, which means if Steam ever disappeared, your library could go along with it. Steam has also been under fire for hosting asset flip games, titles that contain malware, and it's also been criticized for how some parts of its marketplace operate more like a casino rather than a game store. Then there's GOG, also known as Good Old Games, the DRM-free alternative from CD Projekt Red, the team behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk. When you buy a game there, it's yours forever. You can download the installer, back it up, and if GOG ever shuts down, it'll still work. They even restore and maintain old classics to run on modern hardware, preserving them for future generations. But who cares about all this? Game Pass lets you skip the FOMO with dozens of day one releases on the platform. You don't have to wait for sales, and technically you don't even need the hardware with Xbox moving to cloud streaming. But are you really getting your money's worth? What happens when you buy DLC for a Game Pass title and that game leaves the service? You're just out of luck, I guess? All of this ties back to one idea. Where you put your money matters. Maybe subscription fatigue is setting in for me, since I've recently dropped a few services I didn't feel I needed anymore. But don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming anyone for being a Game Pass subscriber. Even at this new higher cost, which again is $30 at the top end for consoles and about $17 a month for PC. It can be seen as a decent deal, hundreds of games and day one releases. With new game prices hitting $70, add a few of those together and you're already at the yearly Game Pass cost. Still, I think we have to admit that maybe those of us who hyped it up early, this was me by the way, might have been wrong. The subscription model isn't good for the industry long term. It lured us in with impossibly low prices, and now, with everyone locked in, it's raising them. But luckily, Xbox isn't the only game in town, and with their recent announcement of a $1,000 handheld, I don't even know if they know what they're doing anymore. Game Pass started out as some of the best deals in gaming, but now it seems like it's something we'll look back on as a turning point in the industry. I started this story talking about a Steam code in a box for Borderlands 2, the moment I realized gaming was changing. Maybe now we're at another one of those moments. But the choice isn't between discs and downloads anymore. It's between renting and owning. And how and, more importantly, where you spend your money decides what kind of gaming future we'll have. So with all this being said, consider paying more attention to where you buy your games and take a look at your backlog. You might find some gems in there too. In the meantime, subscribe, like, and comment, and thanks for watching.